In this episode of the Tech John, we discuss Google's ending of DEI, extending to ditching diverse calendar events like Black History Month and the Holocaust Remembrance Day. New algorithms and Afro-textured hair and animation are coming to the forefront. And we've got a guest. We interview Mumbi Dunjwa, founder and CEO of Nature As, a health and beauty company that formulates, manufactures, and distributes a 100% vegan hair care system. We've got all this and more for you, plus a spotlight in episode 165 of the Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Happy Holidays to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Woohoo!
For winning their first Super Bowl in a while. I think the first
winning
one was
handily.
Soundly.
Put that in there. Yes.
Soundly winning this recent Super Bowl. This is the second time. I think Nick Foles and them won once.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's Eagles. Now they are questioning the Chiefs, quote unquote, dynasty, because they've got two. Chiefs got two. Now Chiefs got back to back, but don't look like Jalen Hurts and them going nowhere no time soon.
Nowhere. Not with that defense.
That was a defensive clinic. They sacked him the record number of times that a quarterback has ever been sacked in the history of the NFL. And they never blitzed. They did not blitz one single time. That was just four grown men saying there's nothing you can do to stop us from getting to the quarterback every single time we try hard. And it was a defensive drubbing. I was hoping that that Philly was going to win. I even thought that Philly was the better team, but I thought that, well, Philly's got to play not just Kansas City. I think they got to play the refs too. So if it's close, if it's, if it's under 10 points and it's, if they're only up 7, only up 8, and you let that dude get a 4-minute drive, the game's going to get tied, and you just never know what's going to happen in overtime. I thought it was going to be a close game like that. I was not expecting them to just come out and just completely dismantle the offense of Kansas City. So
blow the whistle. I should have had my whistle. Shout out to Gilly. Blow the whistle, baby.
So I can't even say it was a good game because it really wasn't. It was like there was no time ever that game was not in question from pretty much the midway through the first quarter. We will in the after party we will talk about the halftime show because it was pretty interesting. So we'll get there. But y'all, we got a guest this week. So I'm excited for when our guest comes in to have that chat. But before we get there, and before we even get started with the show, if you would like to support the Tech John, you can do so in one of many ways. The way we're going to talk about today is Patreon. So if you were to head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, you will find multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party. The Tech John is not just a podcast. It is a live stream, and our patrons get access to come and hang out with us while we do the show live. So once again, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. That is the Tech JAWN/Patreon. So with that being said, Terrance, you stuck this note in here about Google getting rid of calendar events that are, I guess, DEI calendar events, if you want to call them that.
Well, they're getting rid of they are reverting back to the default federally, nationally, globally recognized holidays. Up until Black History Month, Google was putting all kinds of calendars on their calendar app. They worked with a team called timeanddate.com. I don't know if this is the internal company of Google or something external, but prior to Black History Month, Google highlighted Black History Month, Indigenous Peoples Month, Jewish Heritage Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and Hispanic Heritage have also been removed, according to Google Project. Of course, people are not happy about that. They call it shameful, but this is what I wanted to read Google's response to this. They say, and I quote, "For over a decade, we've worked with timeanddate.com to show public holidays and national observances in Google Calendar. Some years ago, the calendar team started manually adding a broader set of cultural moments in a wide number of countries around the world. We got feedback that some other events and countries were missing. And here's the part I wanted to to highlight on. And maintaining hundreds of moments manually and consistently globally wasn't scalable or sustainable. So in mid 2024, we returned to showing only public holidays and national observances from timeanddate.com globally, while allowing users to manually add other important moments. So I wanted to hone in again on that. Maintaining hundreds of moments manually and consistently wasn't scalable or sustainable, according to Google. Now, Google has millions and millions of user data. Users via Google, the website, or via their Google phones. Google can track exactly where millions of people are based on their Google browser. They know where millions of people are going on a regular basis and can like surgically provide ads based on where you click around on the internet and on your phone and other places. But Google themselves, and I quote, are having problems manually updating hundreds of calendar events. So I wanted to throw it back to y'all. Is Google having a problem managing calendar events, or is there something else going on here?
It sounds, I mean, I think we know what it is. The thing is, it was interesting, the article, the Verge article, the kind of subtitle said Google says it switched to only showing default entries for public holidays and national observances last year. And my whole thing is like, who gets to decide default?
Right.
Like we get it, Christmas, Memorial Day, 4th of July, whatever. But
Outside of
though
that,
why do those things get to be the only default? I'll put it that way. And that was kind of what I wrote in my notes for this. Like, why does and why are you relying on timeanddate.com? I'm looking at timeanddate.com right now on my machine, and I mean it's like if you had called to get the time and the weather or something like that, but it's a website that does that. However, even in its own on the website, there are still other observances and holidays listed, because I'm looking at upcoming holidays for February 2025. There's a Jewish holiday there. Well, there was on the 13th. There is a Hindu holiday coming up on the 25th. So there's other things happening in time. If you're saying we're only going to do what timeanddate.com does, they actually do observe and call out other more diverse holidays and observances than just whatever the quote unquote default ones are. So if you're pulling the data from there, you could still be populating your calendar with the same stuff you were populating it with 6 months ago. So I think it just sounds like more caving into MAGA folk, because y'all don't have no backbone.
Either that, or they're trying to curry favor, see if they can, because Google, something I learned recently in conjunction with learning about Google explaining why they got rid of their specific DEI stuff. I learned that, and I should have known this, but Google is a major government contractor.
Well, and they just dropped they're going after defense work now. They used to have something in their, I think,
don't be evil.
Yeah. All that's over now, and they want that defense money. They want that government defense money. So they playing the game.
They playing the game.
Steph, do me a favor, right fast. Tap your mic. That's not the mic you're using.
Uh-oh. Hold on.
So here's my take on this. Google, as are many other companies, are saying, well, America has voted, and they have basically determined if it ain't white, it ain't right. So we are going to get rid of everything that we can. So what I imagine is going to happen is that if it is not a federal holiday or a federally recognized thing that should be on the calendar, it's just simply not going to be there. They're like, the heat we will take from that's too much. We don't want to take the heat.
Is it though?
No,
but
that's what they think. That's what they think.
And that's my ultimate issue. It's like when people who you assume have leverage over you, all they got to do is grumble, and then you make accommodations, right? I don't, well, I mean, I know the answer is a rhetorical question here, but why are they not equally as being accommodating
Right.
when other groups have grievances or
Right.
have things that they want to see or want to be included or whatever the case may be? It's kind of like, oh, we're working with this and we're partnering with that. But when other groups like even think about like on Reddit complain, everybody's like, all right, no, we got to shut this shit down.
Right.
And it's like, well,
It's
which,
too woke.
you
Which one is it? Like, are you
right,
accommodating
right.
or are you not?
Are you
I
not?
think it's the money. I mean, like I said, they
Money
literally
talks.
just decided to
Mhm.
start pursuing defense contracts and
Well,
they want the
and
money.
they also mentioned they're going back on their pledge to not use AI
Right.
for military applications. And they were
Mhm.
like, nah, we doing that
We're doing
too.
all that. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing all that. And we want that bag. I mean,
Mhm.
listen, when you live in a capitalist society,
Yeah.
capitalism reigns supreme.
I mean, you know, I'm not even playing devil's advocate or anything like that. I'm not trying to put myself in their situation. I see what they're doing. Terrance, I agree with you. The heat's not too much. They're Google. It is a ridiculously large company that does not just here in the United States. It's a worldwide company. If they wanted to, no, we're going to keep Black History Month and Holocaust Observance Day in the calendar, they would be cool, but they just don't want to take the chance that they're not, because the people that we offend by pulling it out are less powerful than the ones that we offend by leaving it in.
The things that I don't look at on a Google Calendar
Is the
are
holiday events.
many. And the holiday stuff is like, it's at the top of it. Like, I pay attention to my stuff on my
Mhm.
calendar, not anything like the level of pettiness and ridiculousness to even notice that and be like, why did they get like,
And
grow up, honestly. Just
and
grow
then
up.
again, for Google to be like, oh, well, somebody complained, shut that off, instead of like, oh, we're gonna monitor things over the next couple months. We're gonna make sure everybody's thoughts and words are heard. So here's this survey. Tell us what you think. Yada. None of that. None of the focus groups. None of the, we're gonna observe this, and if our customers, none of the things that we see companies do when they are fighting other changes. Nobody likes to be told what to do,
Now,
And they're claiming that they're not saying that they're even doing this because of complaints. They're saying they're doing it because it's not, well, they got feedback that some other events in countries were missing. So they just didn't want to do the work of maintaining the calendar.
A growing,
yeah,
for the people that their customers. Got it.
Right.
Check.
Right. So I'm just like, yeah, that, you literally have a
It
whole
is what it
team
is.
that works on calendar and you fronting like you can't add 3 more events per, calendar year to the calendar
that
like,
happen
come
the
on,
same
man.
day every
Yeah.
year. I can go in my calendar and put an event in and click this little button called repeat and repeat yearly and click that. I ain't gonna think about it no more.
And that's actually what they're advising people to do. If you want your little event or holiday or observance recognized, add it to your own calendar.
All right, bet.
so yeah,
Okay.
I just went to look to see. So when did we start, really recognizing Black History Month? Because I can't not remember it. So it was 76. That's when we started recognizing it. And I think that from 76 on, it started becoming a bigger and bigger thing in school. I distinctly remember in grade school, definitely middle school, high school, there was always Black History Month stuff. So this is stuff that we have been rocking with now for pushing 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, well, we don't have White History Month. Like, it's...
And it's not even
I'm
that.
almost
I think
tired of even having the conversation anymore, because like we know what it is. Just you caved, you pulled it out. We know what it is.
And it's like what Stephanie mentioned. It's like, is it that hard? If everybody and they mama came to Google and said, hey, we want our event recognized or observed or just made mention in Google, is it that hard? Is it that hard? Is it that hard that you can't maintain hundreds of dates It's like, I get it. I get it if you say we don't want to, we don't want to feel like we singling nobody out. We don't want to alienate nobody. We want to make sure we're inclusive. So the only way to be inclusive to everybody is to be inclusive to nobody. I'll take that over, oh, it's too hard.
And you're not even doing what you said you were going to do. You know, they said they were going to go back to only including what is on timeanddate.com. And some of that stuff is not in the calendar at this point. Like I said, I'm looking at time and date right now, and I'm looking at my Google Calendar right now. And some of those observances that they have in there are not in the calendar. So you're not even doing what you said you was going to do in the beginning.
Important time and date. It's like, what you put me in for?
Right.
Right.
Time and date's like, why I got to be all up in the mix. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah, anything that can even be construed as DEI, many of these companies just don't want to have anything to do with it because we are worried about let's be honest. This is the president of the United States that is going on this war against everything DEI. He is a very powerful person. I get that, but it's just like you Google. It's like they could have done this. Hey, because we're having, if the reason that they're saying that they're doing this is really the reason, like, hey, we're having so many people are saying they don't want all these dates here, that there's not enough because we don't have everything. We're going to give you a toggle switch to where you can turn it off, you can or you can turn it on. It'll be off by default, but all you got to do is click this checkbox. It's now back on. And if there are dates that were missing, you can submit them here. And if enough people submit, we'll add those to the calendar. They could have did something like that and it would have been cool. We probably would be talking about, oh, Google did this thing, but it wouldn't be Google caved to this thing. But it's like, no, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to appease someone. They're trying to get someone to, they're trying to curry favor with with the
bag and keep it moving.
So it's like I said, it's one of the things to where I would imagine that you're probably going to have some developer come up and say, hey, here's a extension for Chrome. If you want to get these days added back into your calendar, just click on this and it'll just do it. It's free. I would imagine that is, if it hasn't already been created, I would imagine that somebody's going to be working on that in the not too distant future. So y'all, another story that we want to talk about here, and this one was pretty interesting to me. I'm a gamer. Terrance, I know you play games, and historically, when you make your black character in a game, the hairstyles that you get, they just suck. You might get a fade, you might get some locks, you might get you might get a crown or something like that if you're playing a female character, but the options are very, very limited. But Afro textured hair is kind of on the come up. We have some researchers from Yale and UC Santa Barbara have developed algorithms that accurately depict unique kinks and curls. So I was actually looking at some of the videos and some of the images, and like some of this stuff looks pretty good. In fact, it looks so good that one of my initial thoughts was because one character had basically a short fade, kind of like what Terrance's hair is right now, and I'm like, oh, he needs a wave cap on immediately because it didn't look it wasn't looking fresh and wavy at all. But I was like, but it does look like some hair that has not potentially been brushed or something like that. But when you go and you look at all the different variations of hair, they're doing some work here, and they're making this research available. So it's very soon we can start seeing some of this stuff pop up in games. So I kind of wanted to get your take on that, and then we can also talk about why is this happening, because you could say that's anti-DEI as well. It's like, why are you creating specific people's type of hair? Why not just have hair and not worry about where they come from? I know someone is having that conversation because I'm thinking about it, but I do want to get your take on what these researchers have come up with from Yale and UC Santa Barbara, or I'm sorry, UC Santa Cruz.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely necessary. Shout out to the folks. Theodore Kim was a co-author, and there was, I think, a Black woman actually too that was involved in the study. So they do a study, they make it available to animators with the algorithm. The thing that kind of jumped out at me was the idea that there was a quote from Theodore Kim. He's a co-author of the study, a professor of computer science at the Yale School of Engineering. He said, quote, "Almost every computer graphics technique that you see on the screen was first published as a research paper," end quote. I did not realize that. I think I just figured game developers came up with this stuff on their own, and animators and whoever else does this type of work came up with this kind of stuff. I mean, I guess they had to come from somewhere, but I thought they were, like at a Blizzard or some other.
I think some gamers sitting around with the pizza and Gatorade,
right. and figuring out how to make afros or
yeah.
something like that. But the idea that this kind of thing starts in hardcore academic research, the rigor of hardcore academic research, just made me think about sort of the onus on us as people of color to get into these fields, number one, but
That's
also to think about these types of research projects, if you are in computer science and moving into sort of more master's, PhD level academia, like we need that representation there. And this kind of just makes the case for DEI. I mean, you said, Robb, like you can see somebody asking why this, like, how could you, when hair is clearly different on different people? Like there's not really a justification for why you wouldn't want to represent everyone in the way that in as realistic a way as you can, if you can do that. Like I would challenge somebody on why they thought this was not necessary. This is like literally DEI 101. And I would challenge somebody on why they would think this wasn't necessary.
We've known for a long time that representation matters. We can think about like, now, we're all too young to have, to have experiences, but my parents, they grew up, like my mother, she didn't have black Barbie dolls. She didn't have black baby dolls until like she was probably a teenager when finally when somebody started creating one. But this hasn't been around for a long time. There was a time when you could only get black dolls. There was a time when you can only get black action figure, or excuse me, only get white action figures. You couldn't get one that represented you, so you had no choice. But what people have started to understand and realize over time is that, if we actually are more inclusive and and represent more people might buy our stuff. So I put this article in here, and I knew we were going to be talking about DEI. Why are these researchers doing this? Because ultimately, game makers know we make more money when we have more black characters in the game. Why are there more? Because our users tell us that they want them, and they're now telling us that they want them with hair that represents who they are, not just the white people hair, not just the straight hair, but we want to have some of that kinky curly stuff, on there as well. People tell them this. The games make more money when they put that in there, and that's why they're doing it. So this is one of the reasons why you would see this stuff come out. Representation absolutely matters. And when you don't have it, when you try to say, why do you have to make a distinction? We don't get a lot of email or a lot of comments, on this particular topic, but we do get some. And like the question is asked regularly, why do you have to have a black tech show? And it's like, because representation matters. We talk about the tech we talk about generally is tech. We generally do try to find stories that are apropos for our audience, but ultimately we're just talking about tech. But as I've said from the very first episode, tech hits different in different communities. The way you perceive something's different, the way that I perceive it, just based on who I am and who you are. Where I grew up, where you grew up, what color I am, what color you are. And people don't understand that. It's like I've known this for a long time. Yeah. You don't want to understand it. It's like, you just don't want to understand it.
Honestly, I'm a push back just a little bit. There are quite a few people that just don't want to know. But I think when you are in the majority, you have the privilege of never having to consider it.
Be careful with that word. You said privilege.
privilege. You have the privilege of never having to even, like, your brain cells don't have to do that math to even consider it. I can remember I had a conversation with, a white friend of mine a while back, and I was like, and this was like when I was still in my modeling days, and one of the things any model has to have in their gear bag is a good pair of nude heels. And I was just like, man, it's so hard to find a good pair of nude shoes. And she's like, oh my God, no,
Yeah,
I
no,
get
it ain't. All you got to do is.
Yeah, I get them from this place. I find them all the time. And she legit did. And I was like, your nude shoes are not going to be the same as my nude shoes. And it literally took her like a solid minute to be like, no, what?
Now, see, what you're talking about is different than what I was saying. She actually just never perceived it, never. Oh,
this is
okay,
what I'm saying.
I get it.
You had the privilege to never even have to conceptualize it in your brain that there are differences.
Well, I'll push back a little bit. Let me push back. You push back on Rob, Steph. Let me push back on you, right?
Come on.
They know it's out there because as soon as their representation goes missing, here we just talked about the last story to where there were some calendar events missing, and the normal complaint is, well, why you got, because you notice that something that represents you is no longer or never is not present to begin with.
But again, if you have the privilege of never having to worry about that and never having to notice, because you're always represented, you just don't. I guess you don't give a fuck about nobody else but yourself.
So
I don't know.
I get where you were going.
You're self-absorbed. I don't know what that's called. I didn't take that particular interaction as
it could
malicious.
Be self-absorption, self-centered.
It could be a little bit of self. I mean, you have to be self-centered if you're not. If you couldn't even fathom, if it took you 2 minutes to be like, oh yeah, your feet are a different color than my feet, so your nude is gonna be like, that's a level. It's not malicious self-absorption, but it's self-absorption.
It's not even malicious
is when you actually point it out, and you can see that it took her a minute, but she eventually got it. But there are some people that will get it and they will still push back. Well, see, that's just why it shouldn't even be a thing. It's just, they literally will gaslight you to your face and act like it doesn't matter. So, but anyway, y'all, we're at that part of the show I've been waiting for because we have a guest. So welcome to the show, Mumbi.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, on the show. So I know you and Steph go back a little bit and have got a little bit of, history with each other. So Steph, I will let you kind of take it away, and then Terrance and I are going to jump in where we fit in.
Bet. So we are very happy to have Mumbi Dunjwa as our guest. Quick backstory. Like, we don't go that far back. We go back to about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
But I actually saw, so I sit on the board of an organization called PACT. It's the Philadelphia Alliance for Capital and Technology. And it's a nonprofit organization that brings together, venture capital, investment dollars, entrepreneurs, and enterprise through events and workshops and different kind of things, just to get those three groups of people sort of talking to each other and connecting with each other. So I'm on the board of PACT, and we have what's called a capital conference every year where people can come and pitch, and you hear from entrepreneurs, and money's changing hands and all that good stuff. I saw Mumbi first at that conference. She was on a panel there talking about Naturalized. And then we reconnected again recently at PAC's Foundation Breakfast. PAC does foundation because part of the nonprofit is a foundation that, donates money and philanthropic and all that good stuff. And there's a breakfast every year. And I ran into Mumbi there, and we got to chatting because I remembered her from the Capital Conference. And I was just like, hey, you got to come be on the show. Like, that's kind kind of how all the guests happened. The sausage is made. I'm like, hey, you got to come be on the show. So I invited her to come be on the show. She graciously accepted. And we're happy to have her here. Let me just read a little bit of the bio because, you got the receipts. Mumbi Dunjwa is the founder and CEO of Naturaz, a health and beauty company that formulates, manufactures, and distributes a 100% vegan hair care system that delivers and sustains 3 times more moisture in curly hair. Mumbi has 11 years experience working in the research and development division at GlaxoSmithKline. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry and nuclear medicine technology and a Master's of Information Systems Management from Carnegie Mellon University. So thank you for being here, Mumbi. We welcome you to the Tech John.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and really glad to be here, and so great to meet everyone on the show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We are absolutely glad to have you. And it's funny because when Steph put the initial bio in to look you up, it's like, when I'm thinking, it's like, is this the right person? And then I kept reading, it's like, oh, you got some real receipts. So it's like, because we don't just talk, the name of this show is The Tech John, and we talk about a lot of computers and gadgets and stuff like that. But we are all really big into STEM. And it's like, so you be stemming the heck out of stuff, with your background. That's ultimately how you were able to create, your company. So, like I said, I just want to give you your props, because it's like this just shows. I love doing this type of interview to where we're not talking to someone that's that is talking about a game or an app or something like that. You actually, there's other things you can do with science, technology, engineering, and math, and you definitely are doing the heck out of that.
That's right.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's been a journey, but I think when you have, I have this mind of always wanting to grow and learn and explore new things, even unfamiliar things. So my background has always puzzled even HR professionals. Like, wait, you're chemistry and nuclear medicine tech, and then you're IT, and then pharmaceuticals. Like, what do we do with you? But it's all good.
So talk to us a little bit about that background. I got into a little bit of the bio, but give us a little more sort of history of, young Mumbi that was, obviously into science, and how that translated into chemistry, nuclear science, medicine, and then into IT.
All right. Yeah. So really happy to share that with you. And I just wanted to make a quick comment before I start just listening to your conversation just before bringing me in about people walking in each other's shoes and understanding the struggle. Let's say with the nude shoes and the different color types and so on, and how nude for one person might mean something very different for someone else. And I just wanted to make a comment. I came here from Kenya, East Africa. I grew up in an academic household. My dad was a college professor. And interestingly, so he was PhD level in philosophy and metaphysics, and very much artsy. Like he played the guitar, the organ, the piano, but he also really asked questions about existentialism and also taught in the humanities. So that was his background. My mom was more the scientist, and she set curriculums for high school in biology, chemistry, but she taught K through 12, and that was her background. But I do remember asking her a lot of science questions. Why did that banana turn yellow? Like when I was young. It was green and then it turned yellow. And so she'd talk to me about the sugars and how it's producing more sugars and how that's affecting the color. And, we'd look at star constellations in the sky and, I'd say, what if all these fall on us? And so we'd have all these cool conversations. My dad was more math. I remember when I really got interested in math was seeing him add, I don't know how it was when you were young, but my parents would send us to the store and, they would write down what needs to be purchased and the price. My mom mostly did that. But one time I saw my dad counting, like adding up all the prices, but his finger was just going down the list. Like he was just doing it so fast, like computer speed for my little brain at the time. And I was really impressed. Like, how do you do that? So my early beginnings were very much, it was all about academia. You had to, if you wanted a TV, you had to justify how that would help you educationally. Like, we had to present that to my dad and say, this is why we want a color TV. It was crazy, but it was good at the same time. So got right through to 12th grade. That's the equivalent. And at the time, growing up in Kenya and the high school curriculum, we had chemistry and physics in high school, right? And math and so on. So when I decided that I wanted to come to study here, I found that we had been prepared really well, at least the school that I went to. But I came to America because my older sister chose to come here, and I really missed her. And we are close in age, and I wanted just to be near where she was. And my mom also felt that it was important for us to be together and for her to have some support. And and when you're young, you don't think about it, you just want to go. And I begged my dad, and told him, I'll be fine. I'm going to take care of myself. I'll do a good job. And in the end, we were able to convince him, but it was a lot of work because I had been accepted to college, to university in Kenya. And he felt that I didn't need to come to the US. So I did get here. And one comment I want to make about what you said about your friend, Stephanie, and the shoes is, when I was growing up in Kenya, I don't know if you remember, if you ever heard about a president of Uganda. So you have Kenya, you have Uganda, Tanzania. That's right around the Horn of Africa on the eastern side. And Uganda had this dictator called Idi Amin, and he
I remember that
terrorized the
name.
people. You've heard that name, right?
Yep.
It was terrible, terrible, terrible. And a lot of Ugandans had to flee from Uganda into Kenya, and a lot of them came as teachers. And then there were Indians in the country as well, it was really bad. I mean, people were getting killed. It was like a lot of extrajudicial killings. But my friends, I remember some really close friends. We lived in a huge university, and they came from Uganda, and I saw a bit of a struggle, but I didn't realize what it was about. It was just like, oh yeah, we are all kids, we're just hanging out. But when I came to the United States as an F1 student, as an immigrant into the US, that's when it all started coming back to me, like, oh my gosh, what were they going through? How was it like for them? I couldn't have understood it, not having ever walked in their shoes. And as you spoke, in my mind, I started saying, wow, it's so important to try and put yourself in someone else's shoes, especially if they're trying to, share a problem maybe they have with you, just to try and understand where they're coming from and maybe
Yes.
that experience. So I just wanted to make that comment. But, make a long story short, found myself in Boston, Massachusetts, and my sister and one of my other relatives picked me up, and my journey here started. And I went to college. I decided to study chemistry for some reason. I'm not sure exactly how I landed on it, but I believe I was interested. I know how I did. I spoke to an advisor, and I was thinking about medical school. So he told me that chemistry would be a great major to take. It would be harder, but it would improve my chances of getting into med school. And so I just did it. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I find chemistry very interesting. It wasn't easy, especially when you start doing the organic chemistry, the analytical, and so on.
Yes.
And physical chemistry.
Yeah, everybody I know that has ever taken organic chemistry
Oh my gosh, you
is
die.
not well at now.
Yeah, it's just crazy, but it's great. So and then as I moved on, through my studies, again, another consultation with the advisor talking about what I was planning. He said, so are you still on courses? Are you still, planning on med school? And I said, I'm not really that sure. I think I need to figure out whether I really want to do this. So he said, why don't you do nuclear medicine technology as an additional part of your major. So it was like a concentration, but so it was like majoring and minoring at the same time. So I minored in nuclear medicine technology, and so
Now,
did.
what is that? Can you tell us what that? Because I saw that in your bio, and I was like, I actually have a note in my notes to ask you, what is nuclear medicine technology?
Yeah, so it is where you use small amounts of radioactive material that are injected into people's veins. So the radioactive material is they call it chelated. So it's integrated with an element that is known to potentially percolate in an area of your body. So let's say we want to look at your bone matrix. We use a radionuclide called technetium-99, and then it's chelated with an element that's going to help it um, concentrate more in your bony structures. And so when you inject that radioactive material in the vein, it's a small amount. It goes through the entire circulatory system. And, what happens is that it enables us to see using, they call them sodium iodide crystals. So it's this big detector. So you think of like a CT scan or
Talking about in the Pursuit of Happiness, dude was selling bone density scanners. Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah, it could be something like a bone. You could argue that, but then this one is actually looking. You're not looking at the anatomy. You're looking at the physiology. You're actually looking at perfusion, circulation. So, as let's say someone has cancer and has cancer that has metastasized and gone through, the body system. Maybe it's gone into the skeletal system, into the brain. Maybe it started in the prostate, the breast. You can actually see where there's a lot of cancerous activity, because a lot more of that radionuclide material will be carried by the blood to that spot where there's a lot of perfusion, because the cancer is very demanding, right? And so you'll see all these spots like all over the body, and you can tell, the doctors can tell, oh, it's actually spread throughout the skeletal system, or it's only gotten to the base of the spine. So it's that you look at the bones. You could do brain death studies, looking at perfusion to the brain. You could do things called gastric emptying studies, looking at how quickly food is emptying through your digestive system. You could look at the heart and stress test the heart to see if there are blockages, but you're actually looking for circulation and whether there's what they might call stenosis, like narrowing of the veins. So it was very interesting to work on nuclear medicine, and that now takes me on a different journey, because I was really fascinated when I practiced nuclear medicine for a period of time, and I was fascinated not only by the science of it but the technology. You would see, you'd inject people with this material, and then there'd be what they called this big, huge sodium iodide crystal inside a big detector, and then it would translate all the interactions from the gamma rays that you're giving off and create an image on a screen of your heart, of your belly, of your bone systems, your skeletal system. It was so fascinating to me, including the software that we would use to slice through, let's say, someone's heart and actually really look at it in thin layers to understand what's going on there. It would be great looking at, people who have clots in their lungs, and seeing how those clots look like, and how you can save someone's life just by understanding what's causing the problem, the symptom that they're having. So the whole technology bit really, was just really interesting to me, and got me thinking about a different route. I decided I didn't quite want to do medicine. I wanted to have more of an impact. Not that doctors don't have a major impact. I felt like I might be stuck doing the one-on-one in one area for a long time in my life, and have an impact on maybe hundreds of people, but not maybe a broader impact that I was thinking about. So I went to Carnegie Mellon, and that's where I I studied information systems management. It was a huge shift because I was moving from chemistry and
I
nuclear
would
medicine.
say so. That's crazy. Like you were like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like a whole doctor, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and just with this certification in nuclear medicine, and then to sort of pivot in that way to something that kind of uses a whole different part of your brain,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
had to be, significant for you.
It really was. My brother-in-law, my current brother-in-law, he's a hardware engineer, and I think I was expressing to him some of those interesting things I was seeing when I was working, and he said, "Why don't you?" I was thinking of grad school and sharing with him, some of the courses out there, and I was like, "Yeah, you give it a try," and he gave some advice as to some courses I could start taking as part of applying to grad school, and I started taking. I think I took, because he's good at programming, and he's like, okay, why don't you try and take C++, right? Don't take C, take C++, you know, um, object oriented
Yeah, I
type
remember those
language. Yeah,
days.
right. Yeah, it was interesting, and I remember taking it for the first time, and you're right, it's such a switch. It was so different because I hadn't ever been exposed to coding, and it was a very new way of sort of understanding how computers work. And that computers are actually dumb. You have to tell them what to do. Other than now AI, you can question really what's happening there, because some things AI does, you're like, this thing is is way better than me at doing XYZ. So I started taking some computer courses, and then I applied to grad school for my graduate degree, and was taken into this master's program and focused on information
So
systems.
you have both. Now both of your brain sides of your brain are working.
Right.
What is the genesis of Naturize? Why did you think, or why was this important to you to do, and what really separates this product line from the hundreds literally of others on the market? So talk about sort of what the impetus was to create the line, and then what separates it from other Black hair care products.
Okay. You know what? Hair was always fascinating to me, even when I was young. From the time I was maybe 11 or so, I had my little sister, who, my mom having had six of us kids, three of us being girls, was many times tired of doing hair. And here I was, I'm like, yeah, she's my little doll or something. And I would start learning how to braid on her hair, and actually took really good care of her hair, other than sometimes, because of not knowing how to manage very coily hair and combing through it, I didn't have very good techniques for combing. And sometimes I know I inflicted some pain and discomfort, but she always liked the end result. But it always bothered me, because I remember when I went to high school, she ended up cutting hair that had grown well down her shoulders, and with a coily hair, when you see that, and you see that sort of growth, everyone is always so fascinated by it. Then coming to the US, my hair had also grown quite big, and it took me forever to take care of it. I remember a moisturizer that I would use, and it would moisturize just for like an hour, and then it would be very hard to manage after that. So it was this struggle. I remember sometimes,
That
you know,
wasn't pink lotion, was it?
it was the pink lotion.
Oh.
Like, it wasn't, yeah, it was the
I
pink,
know about the pink lotion now.
it's the pink
Pink
lotion.
lotion had every Black girl in a chokehold
Yeah.
all through the 80s and 90s.
I know. And the thing is, I would just feel like it felt good for a bit, and then bam, I was back to the, square one, right? And then when it came to caring for my hair, it took me, a long time to do it. Now, everyone was telling me, Mumbi, why don't you perm your hair? It's going to be easier, blah, blah, blah. And I have a finer grade of hair because when you straighten my hair, it really gets very straight. You can think it's a perm. So I knew that if I did that, I won't have much body, and I like bigger hair. So I avoided it. And then I also saw a lot of people struggling with breakage, a lot of breakage. And if some mistake was made with the relaxers, it was a disaster. And I didn't want to go through that. So wearing natural hair for me was something I did before it became fashionable, because it was fashionable in the 70s, right? With the big afros. And then it fell, because I remember my mom and my auntie like with mini dresses and the cutest afros ever. But then it fell out of fashion. But while it had fallen out of fashion all those years, I was kind of hanging out with my twisties and my kinky hair and all that stuff, but with a question in the back of my mind throughout those years: is there anything I can do so that my hair isn't so dry and so hard to manage? That is why I started finding myself walking in this direction. I remember in grad school, I did take an entrepreneurship class. That's when that interest in entrepreneurship really started taking hold of me. And I did propose a business that was related to hair. It wasn't quite what I'm doing right now, but I do remember, because of it's Carnegie Mellon. I mean, you're going to be exposed to some really awesome stuff, right? And the teacher who was teaching us entrepreneurship had exited his company, and he was doing very well. He was connected within the venture space. And I remember our class presenting our projects to, it was a group of older white men. And this is what you're going to find in the venture world. It's a majority, unless it starts changing within the next 10 to 20 years. And they all rated my presentation as the best, even though I was talking about a topic that they were not very familiar with, and not one maybe where they had heard women in their lives complaining. And so the business value proposition for them wasn't, maybe what they would have been looking for, but they loved what they heard and they loved the way the problem was presented. But I knew that I needed to get more exposure. I needed to get some corporate experience, and figure out, especially being a Black person, having been an immigrant for a number of years, like, where do I start? Where are the mentors? My dad is far away. He's well connected in Kenya, but he's not connected here, right? Who can show me how to do this? And that's when my interest in this started. And then when I worked for GlaxoSmithKline, I worked within the R&D division, and also worked within, I sat between the science and the IT, and was talking to both sides, and making sure that there were the right processes and systems supporting the science all the way from drug discovery to FDA drug submission. I got to see this entire drug development pipeline. And that's when my mind started clicking. Based on the fact that you want to create something that's science-based, what is happening in drug development is a lot more complex, because you're actually isolating a lot of actives, and there's all these risks, and there's the clinical trials, and that have to be done, the preclinicals and so on. This would be a little different, but that's when it struck me how I could potentially start working on this idea and kind of go deeper. That's where Natura started coming to be. Started doing quite a bit of research, looking at ingredients, thinking about ingredients from the motherland, like traditionally what was being used in Africa that was working, that I saw, that I heard about, that I've researched about, and then what are some of these modern discoveries of our time that I can actually synthesize together, with thinking truly and deeply about infusing and sustaining moisture in hair, and really scientifically approach this. That's when I started working on it slowly on my free time, put together some initial formulas, consulted with a few folks, started seeding those out into the community. My mom was one of the first people who tested it. My mom liked perming her hair. She said always her hair was super dry, and very coarse and hard and so on. And I told her, Mom, I think it's because your hair doesn't have enough moisture. So hey,
Mm.
take this and try it out. And my sister had told me, because my mom would texturize her hair, that she was getting some area that was where her hair was really falling out,
Mm.
and she was concerned. So my mom took some of the product that I was testing and started using it. I didn't think much about it. I was just, going on with life. And a couple months later, she calls. She says, "My hair is growing back, Mumbi. Like, it's changing. It's healthier. It's this. It's the other." And then we started. I started going out and sharing it with other people in the community, whether it was friends, family. My husband started pulling him in and saying, "Hey, I think can you help me think through some of this? Because if you want to build a big company, you really have to think about so many aspects of growing it." So then started going to hair shows and pricing it out and seeing what people say, because when you sell someone something and they don't like it, they're going to come back and tell you that they don't like it. And so what happened was we started iterating through the formulas. You'd sell the product. Someone would come back and say, "Mombi, this is the first time I've been able to comb my hair from the roots to the tips. Mombi, this is the first time my child hasn't cried while I've been detangling her hair. Mombi, my hair is growing back. You really should do something out there. My hair is so soft. It's been soft for days." And what started happening is the feedback about the moisture and softness was the first to come, the detangling. And then I started hearing my itching and flaking has gone away. And I'm thinking, okay, I hadn't really thought about the itching. And I did think about the scalp, but I wasn't, because I don't itch and flake. Again, I'm not walking in those shoes. I wasn't really thinking of that. But when I thought about the line, which is aloe vera based, aloe vera is very healing to the scalp. It's been used for wound care. It
Mm-hmm.
really helps the skin regenerate, and it's antiviral, antibacterial, loaded with vitamins and minerals. We have something else called sunflower lecithin, which is very moisturizing. I started thinking about some of those ingredients that are used to really keep the hair moist, and I figured out that's why their scalp is so happy as well. That's why we're getting this feedback.
So,
And
Mama, it sounds like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your company was really a long play. Like, this is something you've been thinking about darn near for a lifetime, and then got to a point to where you figured, oh, you know what? I may be able to do something here. But one of the things you said that really interested me is that, but you know what? I don't know how to run this company, or I don't know how to do this. So you actually went and got employment in a place that you were going to learn some of the things that you're now using to employ in your business now, which I thought was, that's pretty cool, because a lot of people don't have the patience for that. They're not thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we run into folks who aren't thinking over months,
Right.
over months, they're literally thinking in days and weeks, months is a stretch. It sounds like you were really committed to this for a number of years, because it's like, okay, well, I went to school for this, I went to school for that. I got, some feedback, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know how to do this. Let me go work someplace where I can learn some things.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you could, as we get ready to close up, if you could, just kind of tell us a little bit more about your company, how folks can find you, and why they should be looking at Natura as a product, for their hair.
Yeah, I love the fact that you've picked out that it's been something that I've been working on for a long time, and and why folks should really maybe be drawn to learning more. I always say it's good to learn
Mm-hmm.
more. Is because my passion is to make sure that we are we are creating formulas that are high quality, highly effective, and safe for the community. Because Black and brown communities have traditionally been marketed to products with ingredients that are toxic,
Yeah.
and we are seeing the repercussions of whether it's the food system, things that we put on our skin, which absorbs over 60% of what we put on it. We're seeing that building up over time and having this impact on our communities. So definitely having that background of not only the science but the health and understanding what's going on and really wanting to make a difference. Please, definitely would love folks to come and learn more. The product line, in terms of Naturals, we have a 3-in-1 conditioning shampoo. It's really meant to cleanse, condition, moisturize at the same time. This is for people who are on the go, busy, and just makes the whole process easier, strengthening hair, a hair and scalp moisturizer, and has the effects I talked about earlier, detangler that I mentioned earlier, as well as 2 styling products. So all that information can be found on naturals.com. And I have I try to write when I can a blog. We are very, very passionate about education, and so we have information that we share through our blog and through social media, which is naturals_hair. And just to let you know, you will see the words moisture burst system. What makes us different from what's out in the marketplace? I know you mentioned these a lot of other products now, and especially with the recent exits, right? Everyone is so excited about the space. I can make money, and everyone is thinking I can make money, and so on. But really, for us, the moisture burst system is meant to cater for different curl types. So in the Black community, and even when you expand outside the Black community into the Latino community, and even to the white community, you'll find different hair curl types, from wavy curls to tight coils, and you find it across all those ethnicities. So the products are really meant to address curly hair problems, but more problems that pertain to moisture and sustaining moisture in the hair. We're not trying to be everything to everyone, but really focusing on that problem type. When you look at our formulas, the color looks different. They're very herbal smelling. So it's going to be lavender smell. That's what you're going to smell when you work with the products, or you'll smell a little bit of peppermint, which is great for circulation. So when you look at our products, even the color might be, 2 of our products have a chocolate caramel color, right? You don't see that in the marketplace, but it's because of the careful thought that I've put into this product line to make it the most effective.
Fantastic. Well, we so appreciate you coming on the Tech Johns, sharing your story with us. This was fascinating. Like I said, I just love that, you've been able to just maintain a level of curiosity about how things work and how they should work. And you've just sort of absorbed and engaged with knowledge and education at every turn, and really wanted to understand, not only the product, but the business and everything else. I just appreciate your pursuit really of knowledge and that foundational understanding of how things work. And we feel free to come back at any time, because I would love to, I know we have to wrap up today, but I would love to just understand, how you raised, we didn't even get into like the money and the fundraising and all that different stuff, from a venture capital perspective. There's definitely a whole conversation to have around that as well. But feel free to hang out with us in the after party. We are gonna wrap this interview up, though. And I just want to thank our guest, Mumbi Dunjwa, the founder and CEO of Naturez. You can go to naturez.com for the products, or you can follow them on social media at Naturez. That's NATURAZ as in zebra _hair. Mumbi, thank you so much for being on the Tech John tonight.
And thank you so much for having me on the Tech John. And you guys are doing a great job, and wishing you all the success possible.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So as Steph said, we do we do two shows. We do this show, and then we go into what's called the after party, where we just hang out. We answer questions from folks in the chat and stuff like that. Completely up to you. If you have time, you can hang out. If not, we'll let you go now. It's up to you. We know it's a little late, on the East Coast, but we do once again really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us.
Thank you. I may have to step out because I'm getting ready for an interview tomorrow with NBC 10. So really excited about a demo that's being done. So yeah. So
what time is that? What time is that going to be?
It's going to be at 2 p.m. But I think I don't know. I don't think we'll be live. I think it will air. So I will let you all know.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, when it airs. And yes, I would love to come back, talk about the funding journey. And having the experience I did in corporate makes a huge difference. Makes a huge difference. I was presenting to management teams all the time. That's what I'm having to do with investors. But and then having a partner who will really help you in this journey. And I'm very lucky to have my husband who also has been in corporate. So we've been able to kind of crack some of that. I'm happy to come back and talk more about that and share some nuggets of wisdom with whoever thinks they can benefit from it.
You definitely have many. So once again, thank you very, very much for hanging out with us, and we'll go ahead and let you go. So talk to you soon.
Thank you. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Take care, Mumbi.
All right.
So y'all, that was awesome.
I love smart people.
She had no choice. Her mother and her father are professors.
Right.
From Kenya. She had no choice. She is doing exactly what she only, is like, you're going to grow up, you're going to go to America, and you're going to be extremely successful. So that was cool. Y'all, we ran a little longer than we were expecting. So I'm going to hold on to this, spotlight that we have, and maybe we'll just have two next week. Oh, you want me to go ahead and do it?
We got to have it. It's Black History Month, man.
Okay, it's Black History Month. So let's go ahead and let's do this. Let me bring it up here. So we are going to be talking about Granville T. Woods, Granville Taylor Woods, born April 23rd, 1856. He was an American inventor who held over 50 U.S. patents. He was the first African-American mechanical and electrical engineer after the Civil War. Largely self-taught, Woods focused on his innovations on trains and streetcars. Among his notable inventions was the synchronous multiplex railway telegraph, an advanced form of induction telegraph that utilized ambient static electricity from existing telegraph lines to enable communication between train stations and moving trains. Woods also patented designs for tunnel construction and electric railroads and developed electrical roller coasters. His groundbreaking work earned him the nickname Black Edison in multiple newspapers. Woods passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage at Harlem Hospital in New York City on January 30th, 1910, after having sold several of his inventions to companies such as Westinghouse, General Electric, and American Engineering. He was laid to rest in an unmarked grave at St. Michael Cemetery in Elmhurst, Queens. And in 1975, historian M.A. Harris led a fundraising effort persuading corporations that had benefited from Woods' inventions to contribute funds for a headstone, which was then placed at his graveside. To honor his legacy, Baltimore City Community College established the Granville T. Woods Scholarship. In 2004, the New York City Transit Authority featured Woods in an exhibition displayed at bus and train depots and issued 4 million Metro cards highlighting his contributions to third rail electrification. Woods was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2006, and in 2008, the intersection of Stillwell and Merrymaid Avenues in Brooklyn were renamed Granville T. Woods Way. The site, located across from Coney Island and Stillwell Avenue, in the bus terminal over there. So, and this all came from Wikipedia, but another bruh back in the day, like I said, it's not all about tech and computers. Sometimes it's about mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. And that's definitely what we get from one Mr. Granville T. Woods.
On Black Edison and the roller coaster thing. I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
it's like, so like you like to go to an amusement park and ride that clickety clink up to the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Granville Taylor Woods.
That was all Granville.
Many patents on that thing. I think he had over 50 patents on this kind of stuff. So, like I said, Black folks doing all kind of stuff every day. And, you know, like I said, the times that we're in right now seems like we're trying to diminish that, but we're not going to let that be diminished. It's like, you know, the federal government may not be celebrating Black History Month, but we're going to definitely celebrate it.
That's right.
February and every month. So with that being said, let's get on up out of here. Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or head to stephaniehumphrey.com. Sign up for my newsletter.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunwood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech John on all the things. And want to give a shout out to Terrance. You made a clip that I posted over on Threads, and we had dozens. There's probably about 24, 25 new people who started following us over there. So just want to, give a shout out to all those folks who may be listening and catch the show. We appreciate you. And, thank you for coming and checking us out. With that being said, we can go ahead and get out of here. So we will see you in a week's time.
Peace.